Welcome, fourth grade, to the second 6 weeks curriculum preview. I'm going to go over some things for you, and I'm going to do it within Eduphoria so that I can show you where everything is. Let's start with your Unit 3, Texas Long Ago, American Indians. You have about 6 days for this. I want to show you something new that I have put in. Let's look at your unit overview. Your unit overview talks about this is about societies developing economic systems. Exploration is driven by desire for economic and political power. Geographic and political factors influence settlement. Societies are governed in a variety of ways, and communities develop culture over time. Those are your big key concepts and understandings. Now, I've created something new for you, which is a suggested pacing guide. So let's look at it. In my opinion, this is where you're going to start. And I want to look at this with you with your standards, so we're going to open those up as well. You are going to start with 4.1a. You're going to spend 1 day on the possible origins of American Indians in Texas and North America. But then you need to spend 5 days on the following, and I've lumped them all together because in your textbook there's no way to separate these out. It's not a lesson day by day, so in social studies it's a little bit different, but these all go together. 4.1b, identify the American Indian groups, describe the regions that they lived in, compare the ways of life for them, explain the economic activities, and compare how they govern themselves. All that's going to go together. All that would be in 5 days. So you would start with their origins, and then you're going to hit on exactly the tribes you're talking about right here. So let's go through each one of these, and I can go into more detail. You're going to talk about one possible origin of American Indian groups in Texas and North America is that, and I got this question directly from your textbook. So really going through your textbook is going to be helpful for you, especially on these ones. Your textbook is aligned to this. I have identify American Indian groups in Texas and North America before European exploration, and here I have a map for you to look at on page 98. And look what I did. Coming out of Margaret Kilgo last week, she said the way to get your numbers up on STAR is to ask more open-ended questions for your students. That way they're not always dependent on having a multiple choice item in front of them. So I use the map and I ask them a question, and then I write how did they get this answer. It's important for them to show the text evidence. I've also included on here, because you're talking about the different things, there is this Texas Parks and Wildlife attachment, and it is very helpful for you to give you some additional information, an additional resource here. When you go into this, what you'll see is it'll pull up, it's got several pages, but it talks about learning about Texas here. It'll go all the way through. It talks about the Native American tribes that we hit on. It's a learning and activity book that you can use for your students. Who are Texas Indians? It talks about them. It talks about even the first journey. You could look at that for the first one, but you don't have to. But here it talks about the different people, what was here, Spanish missions, Texas during the ages. It's just really very helpful. And here it talks about the different tools they used, and you can find so much information, and this might be a great primary source document to take a page of and have them answer questions about, or use some question stems for them. But you'll see they have some information here. So I've included that as well on describing the regions. I've asked you to describe it, so if you look here, I've sent you to your textbook again for a sample assessment because you want to describe and identify, and that would be using the fact file, on your social studies, which Native American group remains in Texas today, and then I have about a region. I've brought in the regions from the first 6 weeks. During the winter, they lived along the shore and islands off the coast. They caught fish and shellfish for food. Which region does that describe? Because it's talking about the regions they lived in, and I brought in the regions from Texas, so this would be one we wanted to talk about. When we compare the ways of life of American Indian groups, I have them completing a Venn diagram, comparing the different ones, and look what I've done. I've also given you, and this is interesting activities, I've given you a fact chart here that you can look at. Here what you'll see, and you'll see I'm just like you sometimes. I have to wait for these, but this is a fact chart that you can have your students fill out, and this is something you could have. If you have a folder or something, they could paste that in there. If you want to make a foldable like this, that is an idea as well. It is up to you on how you want to do that. There's a Jeopardy game here, and then the research project, so go through that. You'll explain economic activities in the various early Indian, and here I have a sample assessment item would be, because they have to explain it, so I'm asking them more than just a multiple choice. The Caddo, and they were not nomads, how did this affect their economic activities? So you really want to get them to start thinking through what they're writing. Also, I've talked with Debbie Jones, and what she has told me is that the best way that you can help your writing scores is to have students do open-ended questions. So I think it will help all the way around. And then comparing them, and I have on here a little sample, and they have to tell me which box goes with which Native American tribe. Now, on these questions, these sample assessment items, feel free to use them. I put them in because I'm hoping you will use them. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. If you want to use them and make something out of them, by all means, feel free to do that. In Unit 4, Texas Long Ago, let's look again at our unit overview to start with. That'll kind of give us an idea of what we're looking at. Key concepts, societies are governed in ways. You'll see exploration. This is talking about European exploration of Texas. So here you have a suggested pacing guide. Again, you have one for every unit from here on out. 4 days. Now you only have, this is very interesting, you only have 3 TEKS, but this one's a doozy. Summarize motivations for European exploration and settlement of Texas, including economic opportunity, competition, and desire for expansion. That's big. You can get through all the different ones and spend about 4 days on that. Then identify the accomplishments of specific explorers. So first you're going to talk about why would anyone even want to come, and then you're going to talk about specific people who were actually here. That can take 4 days, especially since you have this including word right here. So you have to hit on Cabeza de Vaca, Francisco Coronado, Cavalier, Cerro de la Salle, and those are the 3 big ones that you want to make sure that you're hitting on. So make sure you're hitting on La Salle, Cabeza de Vaca, and Coronado. And so make sure you get these ones in. And then you're going to spend the last 2 days talking about the effects of this exploration. So if you kind of hit it like that, I think you can make it through those 10 days. But you don't have as many TEKS this time, but these all contain lots of information in them. So let's look at each one. When you're doing this one, we have broke it down to these main motivations. They are gold, glory, and look at that, because it is gold, glory, and God. We talk about that being a main reason for European exploration. That is the summarizing of the motivation. You can talk about each one, but also I added in food. I said which one was not a reason. You know, they didn't want to do that, and I put in an open-ended question. Why did the Spanish set up missions in Texas? To teach American Indians about the Roman Catholic religion. If you come over here, I have the accomplishments of these people, and you'll see more open-ended questions. What impact does Cabeza de Vaca have on Francisco Coronado's exploration of Texas? And the answer is, if he had not told the Spanish leaders about his journey in the cities of gold, then they wouldn't have sent Coronado on further. So, and of course, Coronado gets even more land. So that is why. What impact did La Salle's fort have on the Spanish claim to East Texas? Answer: when the Spanish realized the French wanted to start a colony on their land, they grew more determined to hold on to their land. Now, all of these answers I found in your textbook. It's really important. On top of just having students answer this, I would have them cite where they found it so that they're giving you that text evidence of what they have found. And then we talk about analyzing the effects on this. And when you get to this part, what was one of the effects? Spaniards bringing horses to America. And we talked about Native Americans began to see that riding horses could enrich their lives. The last unit that we're talking about is settlement of early Texas. So I'm going to start again in that unit overview. What are the big ideas that we're talking about? And we're really talking about, look at these guiding questions we're going to hit this time around. And you have 13 days for this. How did the Spanish settle settlement of Texas differ from the Anglo settlement of Texas? What were the economic motivations? I even have some teacher suggestions down here. But I would look back at that pacing document. I think this is going to help you. 4.2c is 1 day. Well, let's look at what that is. 4.2c is where you should start. Explain where and why the Spanish established settlements and the Catholic missions in Texas, as well as the importance individuals of these individuals. You need to hit this first. And you will see in your resources page, that is a lesson onto itself. You should spend about 1 day on that. Then you're going to move into Texas's role in the Mexican War of Independence and the impact on that. Then you're going to spend 5 days, and I've combined these together, 4.8a, and that is cluster settlement patterns in Texas at this time, with 4.8b, which is the various locations of towns and cities, with c, which is the geographic factors that affect that, and you're going to combine that with tools. So you're going to look at your geographic tools, which are your maps, your scales, and all of that, and with any other natural resources, graphs, anything you have. Then you're going to go back and you're going to look at, now look at this, describe ways people have adapted to, identify the reasons people have modified and adapted, explain the economic activities of early settlers. All this right here is about early settlers. And then you're going to finalize this talking about those kind of right here, identify and compare the Spanish colonial government and the Mexican colonial government. So you can see as you're moving through here, you're going to hit all these pieces as they go along. So I think it's going to be really helpful for you. I'm hoping that you find this helpful as you move through. And at least it'll help you kind of make sense of it. Now, let's go into each one, and then we'll talk about that. When you do this, I have a lot of what you're going to see is to make sure that you talk about settlements and the Catholic missions in Texas, and I have why did they build them? Basic information. Texas's role in the Mexican War, and here what I gave you was sequencing. Which statement would best fit in this graphic organizer? You want to make sure that they can identify their role. And so this right here talks about what Texas had to do in this role. So you'll see that I placed that in. You're identifying accomplishments. Under identify accomplishments, you're going to see several lessons about Stephen F. Austin. He is in here. You have to hit, look at this, including Stephen F. Austin and Martin de Leon. You have to talk about them. So I've given them sample questions, but I also have some biography and additional stuff to make sure that you can get them in. Like I said on this, I'm giving you page numbers that you can go to look at maps that will help you in this area. And on the same, on geographic data, I'm giving you maps and bar graphs to look at that will help you out. Here I gave you the location of settlements because we're talking about that. So I've given you a map in your textbook. That's something I know all of you have and something that you can look at together. And another one, when you talk about location and distribution, that's going to be in there. So as you go through here, you'll see that in explaining the geographic factors, there is a lot. There's a Gone to Texas PowerPoint lesson plan and Pioneer Life note taking. Let's go into the Gone to Texas PowerPoint. I want to show that to you for a second. When you open this up, you'll see that it goes over all your social studies TEKS. It'll be Have You Ever Moved? Here, look, a graphic organizer you can use, a biography map, websites that you can move to. You're going to have maps that you can look at. Here is a book about the 300, and look at this, a writing connection that you can add to the end. So feel free to use this. Here you've got us broken down into different types of land grants. It really is going to give you, there's even, there was a Pioneer Life that you can talk about, and there was a DVD that gets mentioned as they're talking about this. So all that are things that you can use to help you out. Over here, ways people have changed. How did early settlers make their living? You want to talk about how people have adapted to and modified their environment, and you want to talk about what they did. What were the agricultural products that they created? what materials did they use to build their houses? That is in your textbook. It's something that they can easily find. And how did the service industries, I have here this question, such as blacksmiths, hotels, dry goods, and stores, help the early Texas immigrants meet their needs? Because you want to talk about that the economic activities were based on their needs and their wants. We have hit needs and wants very hard in the younger grades. So this should be something that they are flowing into, that they will already understand. When you get down here, Gail Borden is talked about, and so you'll want to talk about Gail Borden as an early inventor. I just want to start by telling you I'm really excited about all that you're doing in fourth grade. I appreciate all your hard work. Let me tell you, I know fourth grade is not easy. If you need anything at any time, please let me know, and I know you're going to have a terrific second 6 weeks.